Hi.
So, um, please do very short in introduction, like what are you focused now? How long are you working as an agent? What you did before, and then we'll do some questions.
So I'm Jule. I'm originally from Hamburg in Germany, and then I moved to the UK about 10 years ago. I've got a background in design, but then moved jobs to work in music because I couldn't really do anything else. And I've been working as an agent since 2018, 2019. I've got I think around 25 bands that I'm working with for pretty much worldwide, a lot of them. And that's me.
Yeah, great. So, did you also work in the Hamburg music scene, or did you start working in music only in the UK?
Only in the UK. So I studied my first bachelor's in Hamburg and then moved to the UK to work in the same field. And then I studied again in London because, I just wasn't really happy with the job I had at the time. And only really, like, my knowledge of the German music market is really, really good. But I've only started meeting everyone there once I moved to the UK and then went back to Germany.
Okay, so you are not the UK agent of the German artists. You are not the primary UK artist agent of the German artists.
Sometimes but not really for German artists. They tried for me to pick up some German acts last time at Reeperbahn, but it didn't quite work out because there's a bit of a tension between agents that work in the GSA, so Germany, Switzerland, Austrian market. They always want to be the main agent, and then the UK always wants to be the main agent, and then there's a bit of a clash happening. And there's also, I guess this is like also going to some of the points that we would mention later. There's, after Brexit and after COVID, there's a lot more concentration on the national market and less everyone looking to the UK. So sometimes it doesn't even make sense for me to get on board as the UK agent if there's already a GSA agent and they don't really want to go out because the fees are usually better in GSA than they would be in UK. So, but I do sometimes book artists that are from the UK or from France or from anywhere directly with some German festivals without having another partner involved because I can speak the language and I can work with them directly.
So before starting your own company, you did work as an agent for family agency, yeah?
So I first started as an agent assistant for a company called Artery Global. They're based in Sacramento and they had a UK office. Then I moved to, when I became an agent, I moved to a family agency because that was much more fitted to my roster at the time because Artery Global was just like rock and metal acts. And I do love rock and metal acts, but I also love more experimental stuff. And I don't really just want to like be put in a box. And then I recently moved over to EBB, which was just launched today. And me and my ex-colleague who worked at Family are going to be their UK office. So their headquarters are in Amsterdam, and we've just opened the UK office for them and looking forward to growing it.
Great. In the previous panel, I was asking Davey about signing policy and how you interview your artists, how you measure them before even having a meeting. So tell us more about this. Because mostly we have artists here.
Yeah, hello. So a lot comes from me watching an artist live or someone saying like, oh, I've watched this artist and they're really, really great. Which sometimes makes sense because I always know that whatever band I'm working with and whoever I'm trying to sell, because at the end of the day, as much as this is not a great way of looking at it, but I'm a salesperson. But I know the product that I'm selling or the band or the artist is great. So if I need to have seen them live before. And what I usually then do, go on Spotify and look at their numbers then, because as much as it's great that a band is great, they need to sell tickets at the end of the day for everyone for it to make sense. Because the economy is not in a stable condition anywhere at the moment. But sometimes I just make stupid decisions and also go with someone who has like 1,000 Spotify listeners and I just love the band. And but there has to be some kind of like, I know how to grow this. I know where to go with this next. There's a strategy, and also just seeing when an artist is like really hardworking and they do a lot of research themselves. And we are kind of on the same wavelength when we're talking about the strategy, that we're kind of like, they're not planning too big. Their expectations are realistic, that you sometimes do have to invest as much as it sucks. And yeah, but yeah, Spotify numbers mainly is where you can kind of like grasp. And it's really difficult sometimes because there's like TikTok acts or pop acts who have got like really inflated numbers, and they also only sell 150 tickets, where another band that's local that might have just 300 listeners in the same market is also selling 150 tickets, where another one which has like over 1 million listeners are selling the same amount, because a lot of the TikTok stuff is also disconnected. They won't buy tickets because they're just looking at the personality and not really the music behind it, where a local band that grasps a lot and is kind of just like have played here for ages and has got like their local audience. So it's sometimes hard to judge how many tickets an artist would be selling.
Okay, so let's say you're jumping on an interview with them or a meeting. What are the most necessary questions? What you're asking from them?
What their kind of ideas where the band is going to grow. If they have a campaign coming up, which is really important for me. And then just see if it aligns pretty much. And also, I mean, sadly, a question that we do need to ask is like, has anything happened in the past where it's like, has anyone been a creep? Pretty much, you know, because you don't want to grow a band to then suddenly someone come out and be like, look, this person has been actually really shitty to me, and you know. But yeah, sadly in music, that happens a lot.
Are they honest about this? Are they honest about this?
So far, I had no issues.
You put it into contract?
We actually have it in the contract, yeah.
Great,
yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, now you have a band with a vision or plans growing in the UK. What's your main what's your first step with them? Like support tour or just playing them in small venues, or what can you provide for them for a new signing?
It really depends on the band, and also the markets really depend on the band, because I am based in the UK, but I can very much also work with a Hungarian band where their biggest audience is in Hungary, maybe going over Czech Republic, maybe already going into Berlin and those sort of markets. It doesn't necessarily have to be the UK, because we do have the knowledge of all of Europe, and I'm going into Australia as well sometimes America. Sometimes it's better to have more people involved, because I can't be everywhere, which I would like to be, but it's just not humanly possible. But the strategy usually is just to see like where the fans are, and that's statistics from anywhere: Spotify, Chartmetric, Instagram, TikTok, plus also just asking the band. It's like, where have you played before? Where's your touring history? Then chatting with the band and the manager and the label where they're going to invest into PR in the next campaign. If Benelux or Germany is a really important market for them, introduce them to some PR agencies that we like to work with, or some labels, if the labels can help with the PR. And then, go find some promoters who can help with it. Because sometimes I tell the band that PR isn't even that important, because you have to spend quite a lot of money. But if you find the right kind of promoters, you can use them for local PR. You can ask them about local magazines, if they're up for an interview, if they can connect, if they can recommend anyone.
Yeah, so you are open to work with bands who don't have labels, or so independent bands as well.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm quite far removed as the agent from the label, because usually the manager is in between. Labels have been quite annoying recently. I quite like if the band is just like a self-starter and has just been like okay, we're going to do this. This is the release plan, because usually what happens if a label is involved, that they're going to come in way too late and say, we're going to push everything back, and I have to book a year in advance, and suddenly we have to cancel the tour and reschedule it, and then like everything is just falling
Yeah, because
apart.
the release gets delayed.
Yeah. Because like labels don't have the money that they used to have, because physicals aren't selling anymore. Like everyone is on Spotify, so they don't have a lot of control anymore. And there's a lot of like bigger labels in the UK only signing artists that are already selling 2,000 tickets. So only really investing into an artist when they're already making money. And this is not where we need the labels. We need the labels at the start for the first 2 years, where the artist is not making money, to be there to support them. So it's tricky. Yeah, it's a trick. There's great labels out there. Like, not to say that like everyone is bad, but I really don't mind if they don't have a label, as long as they are aware that they then have to put the work in that the label usually would put in.
Okay. How is the club situation right now in the UK? Because I keep seeing really sad news about this. Really legendary venues are closing or struggling. So what's your view on this, and what's really happening, and what is the future for small clubs?
I mean, just as much as here, I assume people are struggling to afford just like basic cost of living, just to pay their bills, just to pay for food. So naturally they go out less. And there's also the younger generation isn't as drink obsessed. The same in the UK, even though like we've got massive drinking culture. And it is tricky because like the UK is so famous for so many venues. Even in the smallest towns, there's still like 1 or 2 venues. And for me, it's really hard sometimes to communicate with a manager that's not from the UK, that they should be playing some of the venues, because if a band is too small, they can't play the really, really small venues, because if they're worth only like 100 tickets in London, they're going to be worth 30 tickets in St. Albans or something. But if a band already like is selling 700, 800 tickets somewhere, and they get like 4 or 5K, then you can't send them to St. Albans again, because they're getting like £800, and the manager's like, why should we do this? It's like, you had to keep the venues alive. But there's some bands who do that. I think Enter Shikari are the most famous, that like do go to the B and C and D cities, and not only in the UK but also like everywhere in Europe, to keep the venues alive. Like they also work with Music Venue Trust.
They just announced the club show in Budapest as well.
Great.
So this was a bit unexpected. But
yeah, they're an amazing band. We also had bands supporting them, where like support fees are usually really, really low, and they give them like a really good fee, and they're just really good for the music ecosystem. And yeah, the organization Music Venue Trust which is like our venue charity. Because again, we also don't have a lot of funding available in the UK, because they don't really care about the rock and the alternative scene. They only care about opera. But Music Venue Trust are really good. They've just introduced a ticket levy, which I think is already a thing in France, where if you go to an arena show, £1 of the ticket has to go back into grassroots. And there's some artists I can't remember, but it's like the most random lineup on the planet. Like they committed to doing this. I think it's Katy Perry and then like some others. And they also try to, with those funds, they try to buy music venues, so no one can push them out. Like there could be no evil landlord going like, we need the space now, or you have to be quiet now because there's a really like luxury building next to you now and the neighbors are pissed off. So yeah, they're doing really, really good work.
Yeah, that keeps happening in Budapest as well. Like people get used to having fun only in the city center, and then obviously like bigger venues needs to move out, and we don't go there, it's too far. So it's tough, and we need the club life, so we need to keep this alive.
I think people will wake up, but it will be too late.
Yeah,
as it always is, like the culture will be gone, and then they will be like, oh, where are the clubs? Why can't we go out anymore?
Do you know any numbers, like how many small venues closed down in the last 1 or 2 years?
I don't know the exact numbers, but it's too many. It's venues that I've worked with in the past as well, so it's not just like any random ones. So that's really sad. And Bath is quite a posh city, but they had one really, really good venue, 150 cap. It's where all the alternatives go, and that has closed, and now you just can't play Bath anymore.
That's happening also in Hungary, like outside of Budapest. there are some important regional centers which don't have any club anymore, or you can or you can only have like big clubs where a small artist cannot play, or in the other end you can play in pubs where obviously technical conditions are not ideal.
Yeah, I think another solution to this, and I don't know if that's the right or wrong solution, but there's a particular venue in Germany which I'm thinking of, which is called Kinet and Kusel, and they bring over quite a lot of like just up and coming artists, and people do really believe in their bookers and the lineup, so they just come because they don't care about the lineup. They're just like, I know there's going to be a good night. It's the most random place in Germany. I haven't even heard of it before this venue came up. And I mean, they've got some press around them now, and it's like they're really, really lovely people. But I think you have to have that like certain USP or some kind of like people would now not only from Kusel go here, but also from the surrounding towns, because there's like new upcoming artists that have come a long way to play here. In
this case, maybe the curation is the USP. Great. Tell us more about the agency now. What genres you have? Tell us about your favorite artists or at the moment, and how do you planning to extend your roster if you are planning?
Yeah. So what attracted me to EBB was that their biggest artists, I think, at the moment are Altingün and Yin, which are in the psych rock world and a bit in the worldy world, but more Turkish heritage, different influences, different cultural influences. And they're not like the mainstream pop artists. They wouldn't have like a Sabrina Carpenter or something on the roster. Maybe.
I think you're coming next week to Budapest, I guess. I think you're coming next week to Budapest.
Amazing. Yeah. So what attracted me to them was that they've built artists that would usually sit in a niche and never go out of those 500 capacity clubs. I think Altingün played Roundhouse last time where they were in London, which is massive. I saw the Smile there, which is like Tom York's new band. So that kind of size. So that really impressed me. And I want to know more about like their strategy and how they build those sort of artists. I want to move more into the performing arts center places. Some venues still, I've got a lot of bands who can kind of like fit everywhere. So we can do the punk venues, and we can do the performing arts centers, and we can do I call them crusty festivals, the ones where you just go for music and take drugs and everything. But we can also do the jazz festivals where people show up in a suit, and so yeah, I'm really excited to just like explore all the different worlds and the strategy with EBB. And yeah, I mean, my favorite artist at the moment is freaking disco. I have to say this when I'm here.
Not only your favorite Hungarian artist, but
favorite artist altogether.
Oh, okay.
No, I think it's so hard because like I work with around 25 artists, and sometimes people ask me to pick and choose to name someone, but I love them all.
Yeah, but okay, we have some good Hungarian bands here. So how did you discover Freaking Disco?
Ship Festival. So that's, for everyone who doesn't know it, that's a festival in Croatia. Very well curated as well. Very, very lovely people. Mirko in particular has worked so hard. I don't think I've seen anyone work this hard on conferences on like the networking side. Like he's just everywhere, and he's just appeared out of nowhere, and suddenly he knows everyone, which is great. And yeah, I saw them there. It was really cold. We were all like really excited because we were like, oh yeah, Croatia in October, it's going to be warm. But they just had the storms, and like the floods and everything. And everyone was like, no, you have to stay. You're going to love this artist. And I haven't listened to them before. And I was like, I'm so cold. I really want to go to bed. But I'm so glad I stayed, because like suddenly everyone, like all the delegates had a second life, We were just like, this is sick. We love this. And then again, did a bit of, just made a split decision. Just kind of like, well, the numbers don't really make sense, but I think they're great. And I know where they can go. I know which festivals they can play to build them. And from there I had a chat with the manager, and then
nice one. There. And were they your only signing from Ship Festival?
I try to not sign as many artists at conferences, but I always end up signing one.
Yeah, it's like the first impression.
Yeah. And but yeah, it's like the strategy is a bit different for the artists that you usually see at conferences, because a lot of the times they are smaller than the ones I would usually sign. But if I just love them live, I love them live, and then you have to work around it. There's always going to be some kind of strategy, and they really deserve it. They're a great band. So
yeah, absolutely. And are you setting up some kind of quotas for yourself, or the agency does set up your quotas, or how many artists you can sign, or how you do this?
So we've got every 2 weeks we've got an A&R meeting where we bring all the artists in that have been sent to us that we find interesting. And then we'll listen to them, then we'll discuss them, see if it makes sense to sign them, see if it's too early, if we're going to chat about them again in a month or in 6 months and see what's going on. And so, yeah, we take it to the group, get some feedback, and then see if it makes sense.
Like touring in the UK became a bit more problematic after Brexit. And how would you prepare those fellow artists here? What to do to get ready for a UK tour, like work permits and everything?
Yeah.
Tell us more.
This is going to be very technical. I'm the Brexit queen and all the ways around it. So you used to have a COS, a COS, Certificate of Sponsorship. They're moving away from it now because we now have an ETA, which is, I guess, similar to an ESTA. So everyone, even like any tourist, has to get an ETA now, which I don't even know the price for it. It's like something like £10 or £15, something like that. And we then don't have to have the COS anymore because you can go through the e-gates as well.
Yeah, last time I was there with a COS, but I know that something's changing right now.
Yeah, it's changing. Because you can go through the e-gates with your Hungarian passport, no? Or do you have to see a border officer? Do you have the little sign on it?
If I have a COS, then I need to see a border officer.
Yeah. But your passport has got the little sign on it, no?
Yes, it has a chip in it.
Yeah. So you can go through the e-gates. You don't have to go through the border officer anymore. You need something which is called a PPE, which is like an invitation letter from a festival or your agency or any of your partners. And you kind of have to prove that you're a real musician and that you're touring and that kind of stuff. But you don't have to go to the border officers anymore. You can just enter with the PPE via the e-gates. No sending out artists anymore if they don't go through the things and to get the stamp. And like the process is going to be a lot easier because the thought behind it is that they already checked you with the ETA. So they don't need to check every musician again if they're actually a musician. So they can just enter with a PPE. And if you're driving, if it's all your own stuff, and if it's a portable instrument and everything you need for it to make noise, which is including an amp, which is including a pedal board, then you're allowed to take it. It's only if it's hired gear. So let's say an American band comes over and they go to a backline hire company.
But you need to have a carnet for it.
You don't need to have a carnet if it's all yours. You have to kind of like prove that it's yours though, which is sometimes tricky because if you had your guitar for 20 years, then you won't have the receipt for it. Yeah. But I think they can see that you don't want to sell this guitar if you had it for 20 years. And with merch, I think the threshold is €1,000 per person, as in value you bought it for, not that you're selling it for. Which is, if you're like a 4-piece band, you could actually take quite a lot of merch.
For a small tour, yeah.
Yeah.
And the
problem is a lot of border officers don't know the rules.
Yeah, I've seen that.
So sometimes a PPE will be fine, but if you do have to see a border officers because you don't have the chip and can't go through the e-gates, we sometimes advise to get a COS. I have that at the moment with Pussy Riot, where we're like, should we risk it? Because you're a bit controversial.
Yeah. But do they have still Russian passports, or they have like double citizenship somewhere?
As far as I know, they're all on Russian passports. The problem there is because they need the UK visitor visa, which you won't need. And some of them are based in countries where they don't have like a home office somewhere where they can go and get something stamped for the UK visitor visa. So let's say someone from Reykjavik has to fly to Düsseldorf to get a stamp, and that's just all nonsense. But that's what they have to do.
I think the registration of the certificate of sponsorship might be interesting for artists sitting here. And if you are doing more than one show, who will make that for you? Like, because only UK companies can make it. So do you need to talk to the agency or all the venues?
Usually the agency would issue it. Sometimes the promoter issues it, but it's only if, like, let's say Live Nation does the full tour. But I mean, you don't really need it anymore. I would really try and read up on the PPE, which is the paid engagement permit, paid permit engagement, something like this. I can try and send you the link so you can make a circulation.
I don't have the most fresh news about it.
I can just send you all of the info as well, but you can prove that they don't need a carnet and that kind of stuff, because it's really handy if you do get to the border to just be like, no, here's the government website where it actually says I don't need it. But I can send that all over to you, and then you can have it.
We don't have so many artists playing in the UK, and I was there last time with the band 2 or 3 years ago. So it's happening that some of them are trying to get into the UK as tourists without the instruments. Some others do the carnet, which is a hell of paperwork. So there's no clear knowledge about this.
It's also a lot of money, the carnet, and
absolutely.
A lot of agencies or promoters are just kind of like, I don't really want to read up on it, so I don't want to give you any advice because I'm not too sure. But I went deep.
And I mean, if you have the carnet, it means at least 1 or 2 hours extra at every border.
And I think around £500 extra, and I mean the fees are usually for new artists. You sometimes get £150 or £300, and then already £500 for a carnet. I mean, it lasts for up to a year, but there's ways around it, and I've got ways to prove it.
And is there any platform for networking for UK and non-UK bands, just to
platform?
To share music, share touring plans, or something, anything coming from below,
I'm not sure. I don't know. I think a lot of people just message each other on Instagram, just kind of reach out in that kind of way. I know I've got an Australian band called DZ Death Race who always do so much research. They're playing I think a few Czech shows and a show in Bratislava. Budapest had won them. But it could have only been a Monday. I heard Monday is a bit tricky here.
Sunday is even more trickier than Mondays are better actually. But the tricky part here is the VAT. We have 27% tax on every concert ticket, which kind of sucks.
Yeah. But they always go really deep, and they always send me local support suggestions, and a lot of the times the promoters get back to me and it's like, oh yeah, great, they're actually on my label, and that's really, really sweet. But sometimes you just don't have bands who do that. Sometimes you just have bands that kind of just suggest any support act. I don't really mind.
You mean the local promoter doesn't suggest anything?
Oh, the promoters, yeah. It's just more sort of for the bands connecting. Yeah. Some bands are really good with it. Some bands are not so great with it.
Yeah, I'm kind of nostalgic about this because there used to be really, really many options for local artists just to be the opener act, and now most there is more a pay-to-play thing on Eurotour, so then they don't really want to have local openers because they're not paying for them.
I mean, pay-to-play I hate. I know it's with rock and metal, I think it's a lot, because then they're kind of well, you have to pay for a bus. No. And but I think there's more room for local supports, just because across the board tickets aren't selling that well if you're not Taylor Swift and Sabrina Carpenter. So where we used to just always take out tour supports to get them in front of people, we're now kind of we should maybe do Europe with a local. So I think there's some openings there, and it's just about having a good relationship with the venues and the promoters, and just say if anything comes up, please send it our way. Yeah, and sadly, be able to do shows for 50 quid or 100, which is not great.
But if they have an audience, that's fine. It's still something.
Yeah.
Okay. What else? How should how can a band apply to your agency? Are you taking applications at all?
Yeah. I mean, they can just email me. I think it's always really, really important that people do their research. So I work. I work with quite a broad genre. So I've got everything from like glam metal to electro-punk to a bit more atmospheric indie electronic, but still on the live side, most of it. So I would only want to have bands really apply to me. Like if someone applies like a hip-hop artist that I don't really know anything about that genre and wouldn't know how to work it, then I'm kind of like, you're with the wrong agent and you sent this to 10,000 agents already who probably said no until you got to me. But yeah, if they've done the research and they know kind of like what bands I'm representing, and then I have a listen to it and then I see if it makes sense numbers-wise as well. And then the next thing is we usually, like, I would like to see them live. So that's when showcases or any tours or anything are becoming a bit more important.
Basically the best way, if they already have something booked in your territory or in a showcase festival, and they need to invite you to the show. That's maybe the best impression.
Usually, yeah. It would either be like, oh, I see the numbers, this already makes sense and I can work with it, but I would like to see them live. It's especially because we're an independent agency and it's not just about, oh, the numbers are spiking and we're just going to sell this and see if it sticks or not. And if they're not good live, then it just falls down and then we drop them again. Like I'm thinking of, let's work together for the next 20 years, let's actually build something here. And yeah.
Great. I think we should jump to the questions now and then maybe back to my questions again. So do you have any questions towards Jule? Please.
I mean, it depends on the band again. I think the easiest for me to kind of like understand is anything live, rock, indie. They're on the touring circuit already. You could usually kind of like take whatever city they've got on Spotify listed, and let's say maybe like the listeners are 1,000 in Berlin, then maybe 150 to 250 people will show up. So it's really hard if someone only has like 30 listeners in a city to actually convince a promoter to put them on, unless it's for a festival where it doesn't really. Sometimes like there's festivals where it does matter a lot how many tickets you're selling, but there's festivals as well. I was just talking about like one of my friends who works at Boomtown in Glastonbury who always sell out anyway, so he's got a lot of freedom to book whatever he wants to book. Or like Fusion Festival, for example, which Freak Disco are going to play as well. Those festivals are great because they can just curate who they want to curate and like book great bands and don't really like look at numbers so much. So, but then you also have to see if an artist is on a lot of playlists. That doesn't really mean that there's actual fans. So you kind of have to just kind of see which artists and what they've done before. And there's also a lot of artists that are like, especially like the older bands that don't really have a lot of Spotify listeners because there's not like their audience wouldn't be on Spotify. And they're selling arenas and and it just looks tiny on Spotify. So yeah.
But your first source of info is like Chartmetric or Spotify directly?
Mine is usually Spotify. I know Chartmetric is used a lot by labels, but we just try to look at all the information that we also get for free to just like save costs. So like I usually ask for the Spotify for Artist access so I can just see like the whole audience, but then also ask if like someone is big on TikTok or if they're big on Apple Music or any other platform other than Spotify, to show me those numbers because then obviously they matter a lot more than like Spotify is not the holy grail.
Yeah. So the band has to know their own audience and present it to you. Which platforms are the most important? Yeah, great. Okay, next question. what would you ask from yourself in the same situation?
I think we kind of like skip the full booking process, how it works. I can maybe chat about that. So how we usually start is when I pick up an artist, I speak with the artist about the campaign and what's coming up. I asked them about the release plan. Usually an ideal time to get involved is if there's an EP and then an album coming out in the next 2 years, which ideally doesn't get rescheduled again, which happens more than you think it would. And then we kind of like, I look at the numbers and I look at the touring history and I look at the promoters they're historically placed with and see if they make sense or move them to different promoters, because some promoters are connected with festivals. For example, like Live Nation, Festival Republic is like big in the UK, or FKP for Germany own a lot of festivals. So sometimes there's a strategic placement. But I do work with the working a lot with the independent promoters where I can. And because the good thing with some independent promoters or independent agents is that they can pitch for every festival. Because, for example, if you go with FKP, they're kind of like, if you want to play Rock am Ring, which is owned by someone else, they're kind of like, oh, you have to pitch that yourself. We can't really help with this. So sometimes it's good to have someone who's not connected with everyone. And then I get a tentative routing together. So let's say like their main markets are Budapest, Prague, Berlin, Munich, and some other cities around it. We see maybe like Nuremberg or something like this makes sense as well. I try to get routing together, mainly focused more and more on the weekend dates where I can, because like Sunday to Tuesday is sometimes really, really hard to tour, which makes it really, really complicated for my bands that are coming over from America and Australia, because they can't just like go home.
Yeah, they need at least 6 shows per week.
Yeah. And then I contact all the promoters, my first choices. If they're not interested, I go for the second choices. Then I ask for the availability, cross all of the availability. Let's say like I've got the 1st to 10th October timeframe. See what makes sense with the routing, get the offers in, negotiate, always ask for the costings, because then you can see what the capacity is, how many tickets we can sell, if they're overcharging for marketing, if they give you like, I don't know, 4 like staff crew members when you're actually like, I don't have any backline, like why do I need 4 people? So always have a look at this, and then start confirming the offers, announcing the tour, get the marketing assets together. Ideally with the first single release of the album, so you've got the full campaign to push. And also, usually, I mean, it used to be that you release an album and you can tour with the same album for 2 or 3 years. It isn't like this anymore. You do the album release run, ideally in small rooms, sell them out, and then you can tour again in bigger rooms. If you do it in small rooms and don't sell out, onto the next release. And that's crazy, because like it's not normal to like release that much music. Yeah. And it's expensive to write an album and to record an album.
Let's jump back to the local promoters. I bet you have some local favorites, and as you mentioned, in most of the cities. And what do you do if any of them gives you a really long and honest feedback about this band won't work here? Are you pushing for other promoters, or just believe him?
Sometimes. If I'm really pushing for it and I really think it could work and they tell me actually no, then I'm looking at it again. I'm just like, am I wrong? And then sometimes I'm like, maybe I am wrong. Maybe I shouldn't do this. Because then when you put it on sale and it doesn't sell tickets at the end of the day, like it's people's livelihood. Like we need to make money as much as bands need to make money. And promoters won't trust us again if we keep selling them bands for $2,000 that sell 30 tickets. So we have to be really careful with this too. But we're obviously on the artist side as the agent, because they earn more money, we get more money to just make it in. Like, I mean, I love the bands, but it's my livelihood too. But sometimes I then go to a different promoter and just get some different feedback.
So is there an agent and promoter friendship?
Yeah. I think there's a good group of people and people who I would call my friends now as well, where we just constantly go like, have you seen this band? Yeah, they're really, really cool, and maybe you should sign them. And yeah, just like I love it. It's the best thing because like most of my friends I found through music, and for me it's like one of the best things to just share good music, and that's what we do with agents and promoters as well.
Like going to shows or listening to music is a good shelter from the outside world, and working in the music industry is sometimes quite tough and demanding. But do you still find this is a good shelter? And then can you switch out from your work when you are on show?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I think it's really important that I have a few festivals scheduled where, I sometimes have bands playing, but I'll be like straight up, I'm like, this is fun time. I'm not your agent now, It's like if you see me somewhere drunk, like you haven't seen me.
Different head.
And they understand. Like I'm really close with a lot of my bands, so they understand. And I never go like too crazy anyway. And but yeah, a lot of it is work, but it's fun work. Like it's good. It's just a lot. Like you have to be born for that kind of job because it never really stops. Like I can't just say like, oh, I've just spent like 8 hours at a show again. That's not my time at work. I can't claim that back tomorrow and not work tomorrow. I still have, it's like my job is pretty much office based. So I've got my 9 to 5 and then I go to gigs in the evening.
So you have these boundaries at all. So are you able to keep those boundaries about working hours and being available?
Sometimes, yeah. I took yesterday off, but then today, I tried to just squeeze in just half an hour or an hour of work. But yeah, I can switch off and I switch the phone off, and I don't just really look at the emails because we're not saving lives most of the time. Sometimes we do, but more so the bands with their lyrics and their emotions and everything. But yeah, usually no one dies if we don't reply to an email for a day.
Week. And in the end, you need to be like equals in this business, like artists, agents, managers. It's not about going just below, just to be more pleasant.
Yeah, no, I think. I don't even know where I have it from, but I always think of it as like the stressed idiot. You don't want to work with someone who's just like constantly always like, oh my God, I'm so stressed and I can't do this. And I've already I had this today and I'm always late and I hate this. I'm a little bit stressed sometimes because I'm late a lot of the times, I just got here in time. But I then present myself usually as like, oh no, it's fine. It's great. I love this. I can switch on for conferences and everything a lot as well. Because the conferences, they're fun. It's work. But the reality of it is a lot of the times you do go out until 3 a.m. And usually it's the first day because I never learn. And then, but I'm there at 10 a.m. and then I still have my meetings and I can switch on and that's fine. And I think you have to be born for that, or you have to kind of know your boundaries and say I'm not going to drink at this conference and I'm just going to do business, because no one wants to work with someone who's just stressed and drunk all the time and that kind of stuff, So you have to just kind of see that you can still be professional whilst you're having fun.
Especially as a manager, but also as an agent, you need to have the trust of the artist. And where is the boundary between the trusted agent and the therapist of the artist? And how can you set those boundaries?
Good question. I think I'm a very good therapist. I've helped my bands through a lot, too much. I'm always sitting there at the end of the day, I'm really drained. I shouldn't, this is not part of my job description, but it kind of is. Some of my bands don't have managers, and I don't mind them not having managers, because also a lot of the times if you can control it yourself, I think you should, because it's your music project. It's not just you shouldn't ever have a manager for the sake of having a manager, only if that manager can help with any contacts or more structure, or kind of I want to say take you to the next level, but I hate it when someone asks me to, like, we need an agent to take us to the next level. But I'm like, you have to take yourself to the next level and I can help facilitate it. But you're not just going to get an agent and suddenly all of these things are happening. That's very, very rare.
Yeah.
Like usually never happens. Like even Chapel Rowan had like a 10-year career before she's now Chapel Rowan.
DIY management is very important. Like if you are not good at making your band as a DIY band, then you don't have the vision to work with a manager.
And also, it's much easier to work with artists who kind of know how it works because they've been doing it. Like they've booked their own shows, they've been managing this themselves. It's not just like we want someone else to deal with it. It's kind of like I can talk with you when you understand, and we can work on this together because it never works. I can't do the work for the band. I can just help facilitate everything. So I'm just like the last piece to the puzzle who can kind of like elevate it. But really, the band has to do a lot of groundwork
Elevate is
themselves.
almost the next level.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, any more questions? Yeah.
This might be a bit broad, but I usually try to ask this from people. Does anything come to your mind?
I mean, at the end of the day, I think like the music has to be good. So if you have to do a lot of work about like outreach and you keep getting declined, then it's usually like maybe I should go back and write something. I've got one band in particular who follows up every second day with me, and I'm like, it's not that I don't see the email, but you're just not good. But I don't want to be rude, so I don't want to reply like you suck. But so it's kind of like I do want to reply and say like I'm not interested, but sometimes when I then reply, they get like someone answered. I'm going to email you even more. So it's like we do see most of the stuff. And it's just about finding like the right moment because we're just as keen to find that next new talent that we really like and where it makes sense. So I think we read a lot more emails than people give us credit for. But sometimes if there's just not enough replies, it's just kind of like go back to the drawing board and see what I can do before I need another person who is taking a cut as well, but I understand that it's also in like what we're also facing with Hungarian acts, that it's hard to break out of the market because of you can't get the UK Spotify playlist as easy and that kind of stuff. So but then again, I don't think the UK market is as important anymore, and also the fees are just horrible where you get like 800 to 1,000 euro in some other markets here for an up-and-coming band that no one knows and maybe selling 0 tickets. You get £100 in the UK, and then it's kind of like, is it worth it coming over? So I think just kind of like growing and focusing on the local market and then kind of like spreading out from there until someone notices you. Because like also the honest truth is I go to a lot less shows that I used to go to. I think I used to go to almost 2 shows a night. I used to run through London and like I think 3 or 4 shows a night is like my record. So agents and promoters, we're usually always in the room, even if there's just 3 people in the room, because we want to get on it quite early. Maybe here it's different because I heard like here it's a lot. One person does all the jobs. One person is the agent and the label and the manager at the same time.
Yeah, it's a small market.
Yeah, and like in the UK, it's a lot more competitive. Like usually when there's 3 people in the room, it's me, another agent, and then a label, and like no fans. So we are keen to discover acts, and we are going out. You just have to make yourself visible. As much as it sucks to play gigs in front of 3 people, people will notice you at some point. Yeah.
Thank you. Any more questions? Yeah.
Not really, because a lot of the open mic stuff, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but is not really original songs. So I usually look for a full band that have got everything ready. But yeah, maybe open mics are different here. In the UK, it's like usually singer-songwriters.
Okay. Yeah.
No, she is completely right. And I hated to, because I saw the comments on that as well. I was like, oh, you're just not good anymore. But it's like, no, she's selling tickets. Like, she's not a big artist, but I think she's playing around like 700, 800,000, maybe a little bit bigger rooms. That should be okay to make a living out of it, but she can't. Because at the end of the day, touring is just like so expensive because all the costs are rising. And the problem is that you can't really put the blame on anyone because the venues are dying. Like there's not really enough independent promoters. Live Nation is buying all the festivals, or like the bigger corporations in general. Then you have to cancel the festivals because for some kind of reason someone has given Israel money for weapons, and it's kind of like you're hurting the small bands, but yes, please, like I support this. So it's just a really, really tricky market at the moment. And Kate Nash is raising really, really good points, and it hurts me to see that so many people are kind of like, well, you suck now. It's like, this is not the problem. We're not talking about just Kate Nash. This is a phenomenon which like, you look at artists that in your head are famous and are doing really, really well, and they're just like scraping by and need to have another job, which is a really, really big problem. I think most of my artists that would play the same sort of caps, they're breaking even. They're not making any money on tour. So it's really tricky.
And it puts them, in this situation, puts a lot of stress on them, which blocks their creativity.
Because also the bigger the tour, the more people expect from the production. So your production costs go up a lot and your musicians' costs go up a lot, and everything just gets more and more expensive. So you're not really making any more money. But yeah, I'm hoping that the ticket levy that £1 from arena tours is going to have a long-term good effect on the smaller venues.
Yeah, let's hope that.
That's the problem, I think, with a lot of stuff in the moment. I'm just like, capitalism. There's just like all the big corporations making too much money, and we don't know where the money is going, and all the small ones are dying out, and it's a massive issue.
Totally, and but I really hope that this crisis will be over once, and then culture and music will have a bit better position again.
Yeah. And also not saying like, because I know a lot of people who work at the big corporations, and they're incredible people. They all come from independent backgrounds, but got to like a point in life where it's kind of like, I do need a stable salary, or I want to start a family. So, you know, it's like, I'm not shitting on all of this. It's just a problem in the system completely.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Not the individual's shame at all. Okay, if you don't have any more questions, then see you at the bar, and you can find Jule and Davy at the bar and talk to them more. Thank you so much for coming here.